Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The souls of the damned are screaming for release on this day as we have the Dark Elves versus the Tomb Kings. We have myself is leading the forces of the Tomb Kings, and we have its current year is going to be leading the Dark Elves. So for the armies that we have for you here today, we have Arkan the Black leading the Tomb Kings. He is going to be bringing Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, Libra Mortis, Staff of Nagash, and the Tomb Blade of Arkan. Pretty standard stuff for Arkan. And then we have a Tomb Prince in support is going to be rocking the Guardian ability, as well as the Curse of Dejaf and the Tomb Strike as well. Get a little bit of terror onto the field. For the rest of the army, we have a front line of 3 Tomb Guard, backed up by some Skeleton Spearmen, as well as the King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion, protecting the Screaming Skull Catapult. We also have 2 Necropolis Knights, rotating around the rear. And then for the rest of the mobility, we have some Skeleton Horsemen and 2 Nehekara Horsemen on top of that. And that will wrap things up for the Tomb Kings. Pretty straightforward approach. Got a nice decent front line to hold back pretty much anything that isn't elite for the Dark Elves. But the Dark Elves, on the other hand, have quite a bit of mobility for themselves. We have 2 units of Dark Riders, and we have 3 Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, which will do very well if they're able to kite away from these Necropolis Knights, who won't be able to catch them. For the rest of the army, though, we have a front line of Bleak Swords, and then backed up by some Dread Spears, one of which being the Helibroni. And then we also have the Black Guard of Nagarond, so any of those Necropolis Knights are going to be wanting to stay far from these guys. We also have some Witch Elves, which are going to be hoping to rampage some of those large constructs into those Black Guard, where they will in turn do a lot of damage. For the leadership, we do have Marathi and a Death Hag, backed up by a Master. So we're looking for a little bit of a Marathi Death Blob here. She's going to be bringing Heartrender and the Dark Sword, getting some nice debuffs from that. The Enchanting Beauty, which is another -9 melee attack on top of the -9 from the Heartrender. We have Soul Blight, Soul Stealer, very good against kind of just in general, just against any blobbed up infantry units, or any units in that for that matter. We have Deadly Onslaught and the Wand of Karaidan, and that is pretty much a nice little magic bolt coming in. And then of course, yeah, the Death Hag going to have actually I think that is, so it does have the Chill Blade, so another -5 melee attack. So that is a ton of reductions there, even for the Tomb Guard, whose base melee attack is 32. That is going to be taking them way down. It's let's see, that's going to be -23. And then we also have a Master who is going to be bringing Guardian, keeping Marathi and that Death Hag alive for as long as possible. And that will wrap things up. And let's get this show on the road, as the Screaming Skull has already started firing in. Shots not really connecting so far. I think just peeling off. There is some dead units here, but I think that was just a couple units from the Helibroni. Looks like they are targeting either the Witch Elves or the Black Guard. Taking some decent shots into both of which, taking off a good little chunk of health on that last salvo. But now the Dark Riders are opening up onto the Necropolis Knights. First volley looks like it falls a little short on this unit. It does connect with a few of the Necropolis Knights on the other. And the Nehekrons are in hot pursuit, as the Dark Riders do pull back through their own unit, and the Necropolis Knights will pull back from that engagement. Shots still raining in, doing a good chunk of damage off onto those Witch Elves, trying to get that rampage off the field as quickly as they can. And now the Tomb Guard are moving into position to attack these Bleak Swords, and they will do very well against the Bleak Swords and Dread Spears of the Dark Elves. Not a whole lot is really going to be able to compete with them. We have the Dread Spears are trying to engage these Tomb Guards, as these Bleak Swords are actually trying to get around behind them, looking to get a little bit of a rear engagement. We do have the Soul Blight going down, -30 armor and -30% base weapon damage. Libra Mortis also going down to kind of keep everyone alive for as long as possible, as the Tomb Prince and Arkan are getting into this engagement. The Skeleton Warriors, which was summoned by Arkan, are getting rampaged by the Witch Elves, but that will be no a lot, or no notable loss for the Tomb Kings. Some of these Necropolis Knights have taken a bit of damage, and now these Necropolis Knights are kind of trying to circle around. It looks like these Dark Riders are going to get into this engagement. Not really an engagement I would think that they'd be wanting to take. That is definitely going to favor the Necropolis Knights. But getting these Dark Riders into the picture, though, that will be able to get some very good damage off onto them if they're able to do it. But now we have the Necron Horsemen getting a nice charge through their own units into the routing Bleak Swords, and that will allow these Tomb Guards free to kind of rotate around and attack the rear of this Dark Elf engagement, where we do have Morathi, the Death Hag, and the Master all blobbed up together. So the Skeleton Warrior and this unit of Tomb Guard is feeling the hurt right now. But again, these Dark Riders poking in, and the Necropolis Knights with the King Neketa's Scorpion Legion being right where they need to be to protect these Screaming Skull Catapults and routing off those Dark Riders. And this other Dark Rider unit is now routed. The Necron Horsemen should be able to chase those off for good, and that again is going to leave these Tomb Guard free to assist this other engagement with the Skeleton Spears against unit of Bleak Swords and Dread Spears, as these Necron Horsemen are kind of cycle charging into the rear, looking to make sure all these routing units don't return to the engagements. And the Witch Elves trying to get into Arkan here, it looks like, trying to get him Rampage, and we do have, it looks like, a Soul Sealer. It's actually going to be a very good cast here. It's going to be catching the Tomb Prince, the Necropolis Knights, Arkan, and the Skeleton Spearmen. And actually, Arkan is rampaged here, but there isn't anything close enough to really punish him. The Witch Elves will do decent work, but otherwise we just have the Bleak Swords. The Morathi, the Blackguard, and Nagron is a little far away, and the Master as well isn't going to be able to really punish that rampage as much as they could. It looks like the Inushakti summon also is coming down, though, to assist in this little battle with Arkan and the Tomb Prince currently engaged. Balance power is actually really much in the Dark Elves' favor right now. These Dark Riders are pretty much still at half ammo, and they have not been able to get caught. Like, the speed of the Necron Horsemen is 78 versus the 92 of the Dark Riders. So those Dark Riders will be able to kind of just kite away as long as they want. Another summon coming down from the Tomb Blade of Arkan into the middle of this engagement, kind of hoping to muck things up a bit and hopefully try and break some of these units. But now we have a couple of these Tomb Guard and the Skeleton Spearmen who have won their left flank, are now rotating around to assist this engagement here, to also to free up these Screaming Skull Catapults from any pressure that might be coming. But yeah, right now the Skeleton Horsemen and the Necron Horsemen are pretty much just free to engage. They still have to be a little wary of the Dark Riders, and another bolt coming down just into the middle of these Tomb Guards, what it looks like, but they were very spread out, so that really isn't going to be doing a whole lot of damage there. And the Skeleton, or the Screaming Skull, still firing into the Helabroni, doing good work and providing that additional leadership penalty, hopefully able to break them as soon as they can. And if they are able to be broken, there's not a whole lot that can really peel them off. And now the Necropolis Knights are going to be trying to push these Dark Riders away. Those Dark Riders with repeater crossbows will do very good damage, but it looks like they are caught a little flat-footed as the Necropolis Knights do get a charge into them. And if we swing on over back to the main engagement, the Blackguard is holding strong with the Master and the Death Hag with Morathi, also making sure all those debuffs are just pretty much wearing down those Tomb King units. Even the Tomb Guard won't be able to do a whole lot with those debuffs. But with the continuous fire from the Screaming Skull Catapults, those debuffs aren't going to be as punishing to that engagement, with those shots still able to rain in, do damage themselves. And now, yeah, Arkan and the Tomb Prince are trying to, they kind of want to stay clear of the Master and the Death Hag with Morathi all together, because with all of those debuffs, they're going to have a hard time really getting the damage that they need to break them. And once again, we have the Necropolis Knights pushing these Dark Riders off, but we have also the assistance of the Necron Horsemen, who I think just got back from chasing off some of these Dark Riders, which actually these Skeleton Horsemen are going to be doing. And we have the Necrons returning to this engagement. Another Soul Stealer going to be going down, clipping, and it is actually going to end up clipping the Screaming Skull as well. Not really going to do a whole lot against the Screaming Skull. They'll still be able to continue firing. They really need to push them off if they can, but the Dark Elves are running out of steam, but so are the Tomb Kings. Pretty much just left, as we still have the Dark Riders, but otherwise the infantry support of the Dark Elves is pretty much gone at this point. It is just the Blackguard left, and the Tomb Guard with the shots from the Screaming Skull trying to break them, and they do finally break it with the Hecarim Horsemen charging in, and they should be able to keep those Blackguard from returning. They only have 16 models, but 16 models of those elite infantry can really do a lot of work, and the Hecarim Horsemen peeling off these Hellebronae before they're able to return to that engagement to provide assistance to Morathi, and the Screaming Skull firing in to these Dark Riders, as the Dark Riders are going to try and get onto these Screaming Skulls, and it looks like a Spirit Leech is going to go on top of those Dark Riders to try and peel off as many models as they can, while the Archon and the Tomb Prince do make sure that that Screaming Skull still stays operational. But now it looks like it was just this one Dark Rider unit is all that is left for the mobility of the Dark Elves. Everything else has been pushed off by the Hecarim Horsemen and the Skeleton Horsemen, and now that Screaming Skull probably does not want to be shooting into this blob anymore. Sure, you'll be getting that leadership penalty, but it'll be doing much more friendly damage than damage to any of these single entities, and it is just going to be turning and firing onto those Dark Riders to try and just make sure that the pressure stays on it and push them off the field if at all possible, trying to dodge those shots, but a few shots are able to land home. Tomb Prince and Archon really just trying to stay clear of this engagement, let their infantry do the work for them. Right now, it's pretty much just down to, can they break the leadership of the Dark Elf leadership department in the terms of Morathi, that Death Hag, and the Master. So right now, if you take a look, the low-hanging fruit right now does look to be this Death Hag, and there is a rampage going, the Curse of Dejaf, from the Tomb Prince, and Archon is going to be jumping on top of that Death Hag as well, trying to break her, and that will be one of the debuffs gone if they are able to break her leadership. And if she gets a little bit of cycle charging from these Hecarim Horsemen, it looks like they are trying to cycle around to get in range to be able to push off this Death Hag, and the Death Hag does rout. So that is just going to leave the Master and Morathi. The Master is a fairly decent melee combatant, but with all of this infantry, will he be enough to deal the finishing blow? As the balance power actually is now starting to shift into the favor of the Tomb Kings, as the Screaming Skull Catapult is finally able to shatter these Dark Riders. So everything else for the Dark Elves are gone at this point. It is just down to Morathi, the Master, and that Death Hag will not be coming back with the Hecarim Horseman hot on her heels. But, I mean, the other troops for the Tomb Kings are wavering. They have the critical binding on the Skeleton Horsemen and the Necropolis Knights. But that Master is also going to be wavering, and if he falls, that is going to be it for the pretty much the martial prowess of the Dark Elves, as Morathi will then stand alone, as they're actually getting a little bit separated, and that sure isn't going to be helping the Master's leadership, as he does rout and is now just down to Morathi. The Tomb Kings have the mobility to make sure that that Master does not return, and the Dark Elves will concede, realizing that all hope has been lost. So I'll take a quick little look at the after battle report. So initially things didn't look to be going so well for the Tomb Kings. That blob of Morathi and the Death Hag really kind of broke down that center engagement, which was this one Tomb Guard with only 45 kills. The other two Tomb Guard did very, very well, though, getting over 100 kills for both. But they had that Blackguard as well, doing a lot of work, and a lot of those kills were on either the Tomb Guard, some of the, I think King Nikej's Scorpion Legion were also involved in that engagement as well. But I think there was a little bit of misplays on the Dark Riders, as well as the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. They had the speed advantage over the Skeleton Horsemen and the Hecarim Horsemen. So they shouldn't have been able to be caught out in any bad engagement. They should have been able to pick and choose what they were able to do. But yeah, those Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, I think, were pretty much a very key ingredient that wasn't used to the best of their ability. Though you'll often see the Dark Elves bringing bolt throwers in this matchup, just because of how well they do against either artillery pieces or Ushabti in general. And against this particular Dark Elf build, like Ushabti Great Bows would have absolutely torn apart these Dark Riders and the repeater crossbows. But often you'll see those bolt throwers, which will in turn do very well against those Ushabti. But it was a very fun match, a nice little comeback from the Tomb Kings. And that will be our video for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, have a good one.